Hello, this is Will. I'm a real werewolf. Please like and subscribe this channel if you would, or video or whatever. I've been asked to stop swearing by Louis, so as a favour, I'm going to stop swearing in this bit. Hi, this is Will. Continuing my autobiography of the werewolf. I think this is interview 23. I'm going to go over a job I did for the army. I was often employed to kill the killer of the killers, counter-espionage and all that bollocks. This is one story. I've written it down, so if it sounds like I'm reading something, it's because I've written it down. Okay. Another job was in the beautiful city of Berlin, following my mark. That's professionalese for my target. I followed him down into the subway system. It was about 2:30 p.m. on a bright autumnal day in early October, and the city was, well, beautiful. My posit and I, if you don't know what my posit is, it's the werewolf soul of me. It's separate to me. It's like a ghost that follows me around, teaches me. He's lived for, well, don't call it lived, but he's been around for hundreds of years. If you want to be a werewolf, you need a posit. He combines me with me when I want to actually be the beast. Go listen to the other interviews if you have time. If you haven't, that'll do. So my posit and I had been following him for some time. For this particular plan to work, I would need the man to realise that he was being chased. Yeah, I don't know why either. This was a need-to-know thing, so I assumed that it was for the reason that I did not need to know. It had taken him quite a while to notice me, but once he knew that he was being followed, he had done all the usual steps to try and lose the tail. In fact, he felt he had been successful, as he had lost me completely and was busy on the phone to his handler trying to decide whether or not to go ahead with the task he had been set. Maybe that was it. Maybe my bosses had to have him phone someone so they could trace it or something. I don't know. Who gave one anyway? I would get to kill this cunt. What was the main thing? The rest of it? Well, that was the main thing. The rest of it was just boring. The thing is, as you know, I did not need to see him. I had my posit. Yeah, my werewolf soul who could do the following without the target having any idea. The posit would be walking next to him and giving me feedback on his location as the guy did all he could to evade me. The posit was a homing beacon for me. I could always sense where he was and find him. We were linked by telepathic GPS. On top of that, I did not need to see the guy because I could also follow the stench path he left. Once I could recognise his odour, I could follow him anywhere. I'd smelt the jacket that he had ditched in the bin at his first opportunity in order to evade me, and now I did not need to keep him in view to follow him. He left his own personal trail of odour as a perfect track for me to follow, and had posits sat on his heels looking at him, that the loser. This was really too easy. I would need to make it a little more difficult, or it'd be kind of boring. The mark was Kyle Porter, once an American Special Forces tactical whatever, and an ace sniper, etc., blah, 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 whatever. The best of the best, yada, yada, yada. You know, the usual macho bullshit nonsense. He had a purple heart and a blowjob from the Admiral or other as a reward for killing unknown Afghanis from a mile away with a big gun. These guys think they are the bollocks and that they fight for their country, and God bless America and all that. I always love meeting, greeting, and sometimes eating these very macho characters, these supermen. Amazing how their spirits and their macho ideals tend to change when they meet me for the first time, and predominantly it is the first and last time. I was led to believe that this one was very good at his job, and that he was on his way at this moment to take out his next target. The target was some Chinese business person that the British government had some kind of interest in or something. As usual, I was on a need-to-know basis, well, need-to-know-ish. I actually did not give a shit if I knew it or not. To be honest, I just like to kill and torture people. As I said before, it's easy when you're working for the army because you have no fear of consequences. In fact, I might get a purple-headed erection medal and a blowjob from the Queen for it. 1 or 2 up from the Admiral, Kyle? Who knows? No, it's a Victoria Cross and a blowjob from Prince Charles in our country, isn't it? Far superior to an Admiral, I'm sure. The posit watched him as he spoke on his mobile. Once off the line, and after a very rushed and harsh conversation, he stood to have a cigarette while deep in thought and running his hands through his thick dark hair as he contemplated. It took him some time and some soul-searching, but it seemed that he had decided to continue with his task. I could sense that his confidence had grown, and he must have felt happy as his success in dropping me. My posit sniggered. "Gotcha." Potsdamer Platz was unusually quiet for this time of day. It was now 6:30 p.m. and dark. He descended to the subway level to embark on a journey across the city. He was obviously in a rush and not being too careful about anything. He boarded the train running towards Pankow, and I jumped on it at the same subway, a couple of carriages down from his. This was the risky bit where I could potentially lose him. I needed Posit's eyes on him in order to know where and when he would exit the train. I would very carefully make my way through the carriages until I could see my Posit and be in a position where I could leave the train with them when they stepped off. Through the Posit's eyes, I could see the man as though it was with my own eyes. As we got closer, my Posit and I, we share senses in a much stronger symbiosis. I could now literally taste the guy, we were so close. Posit sat in the gangway of the train, staring right in the eyes of the Mark. It was good to see this big, huge fuck-off wolf sat with his nose on the Mark's nose. Kyle sat calmly reading a book, looking relaxed and feeling pretty comfortable according to the Posit senses. He was a real pro, this one. Obviously he had extensive experience that had led him to being relaxed while working. He even yawned as he casually sat in his seat reading. I felt that this may be overconfidence. Although his taste in books was good. Stephen King's Cujo, nice and almost appropriate. Well, almost. 4 or 5 stations flew by, and then another American, you can smell them as they have like a cinnamon scent, climbed on board the train. He had a large duffel bag over his shoulder which he removed to sit next to our boy Kyle. Nothing was said between them, but the man got off at the very next station without his bag. Once he had gone, Kyle reached for it with a leg and dragged it along the ground and held it between his knees. This must be the weapon he was going to use or something, or maybe he was just stealing it. I did not really care, let's face it. He got a bag thing. At the next station, he waited in his seat until the last second, then rushed from the train just before the doors closed. I followed him as he went ahead. My Posit was keeping him in view, and I followed my Posit on my internal GPS. This stuff was so simple when you had a Posit. He had exited the train at Rosa Luxemburg Platz and had swung the bag over his left shoulder. It looked completely out of place when paired with his tailored suit that he wore. We tailed them as we made his way along the main road, eastward following the street until he took a left at a turn at a hotel that had parked across from it. It had like a big park across from it. He put out another cigarette after a couple of deep puffs and entered the Soho House Hotel. I quickly caught up with the Posit, who I had asked to wait, and then followed Kyle's scent trail to an elevator. Shit, that was a mistake. He could have got off at any floor. I had held back my Posit when I really should not have. I don't like being far from him. He comforts me and he kind of gives me security. I don't like him being far away, it's not nice. But I'd fucked up at this point. Now I wasted a lot of time by having to stop the car at each level to find out where he had left the lift. Finally found his scent trail. He got off at the very top of the hotel. Here there was a bar with a pool closed off on the roof for repairs. A bit too much of a coincidence for my liking. The fact that this place would be free of people and stuff, well, it would lead to fewer witnesses and stop me from creating all that collateral damage I like to create when I get a chance. You know, if people died around a job, the government people kind of turned a blind eye, so I often extended my jollities to others when possible. His trail had led out the door and onto the rooftop. The top of the hotel overlooked the park opposite, and he was kneeling preparing his rifle to take a shot. Again, he showed he had expertise in his trade as he quickly and easily put together the weapon while smoking another stinky cigarette. I nodded at the Posit, and he went and stood next to the man so I could see the target that he was scoping. The rifle muzzle was pointed at a train of running people, and I could see that he was slowing his breathing, ready to pull the trigger. I had to move fast, and in the blink of an eye I had crossed a few yards to the kneeling man. He had no time to react as I smashed his skull against the concrete parapet of the hotel, and his head, well, it kind of exploded as it made contact with a block and showered me in blood and brains. He died instantly, but he had still managed to pull the trigger, and the rifle fired as it fell, and the bullet missed its target by a mosquito's penis. I continued my sprint and launched myself off the top of the building, absorbing the Posit as I fell to the road below. I landed in the centre of an unfortunate but, shock-absorbing taxi in the middle of the street. By the time I'd caught my taxi, I was fully formed werewolf that had made a superhero landing on the roof of the cab. This looked very cool, but had the downside of crushing all those that were inside the cab flat. Once I'd finished my movie moment pose, I continued my run through the panicking drivers towards the park. As I entered the park through this main gateway, running as fast as I could, people reacted with a momentary pause of disbelief, then panic. That panic then kicked in. then lots of, running away and screaming. I continued to run down the path following the jogging target and managed to catch them on the last contact. I hit from behind and eviscerated him with one long upstroke from a claw. I did that just to piss the chief off, really. I knew it was not supposed to kill the target, but sometimes a werewolf has got to do what a werewolf has got to do, and as long as it's not you that I do, then that's fine. It's not as if they could give me a bollocking later, could they? His bodyguards reacted by drawing pistols, but by the time they had them in position, I had moved on to the real target. It was his assistant that I needed. My task had been to find them all in the organisation, and now I had her. Just before the shot, she had blatantly pointed out the target for the shooter. I ran her down easily. She had turned to look at me in her panic, and had tripped and fallen to the floor, skidding her knees and palms on the tarmac of the path. Never look back while running away is always great advice, although she would probably not get the chance to make this mistake twice. I snatched her up from the ground with my left hand and continued down the path towards the road, where the van sat with its back doors open. I leapt in the back with my prey and the door slammed shut behind me. The engine gunned into life and the vehicle indicated out into traffic and smoothly drove away. The two soldiers in the back of the van could not back up any further than they already tried. They were literally pinning their backs to the bulkhead that separated the cab from the rest of the vehicle. They knew what I was, but were struggling to deal with what they saw. Dealing with the reality of me was something different. I looked at my little Asian prize now as she sprawled in the back of the van. She had tears running from her pretty face, and blood was evident from the places I had held her around the waist. I smiled at her with a wimpy smile and changed back to myself. This was probably much scarier in some ways, as she was being stared at by a naked, sweaty man. "Hey babe, welcome to the horror show," I whispered. Eventually, the van swept into an underground car park, and I got out now dressed as the hooded little lady was dragged most unceremoniously from the van into the boot of a waiting sedan. What shot out of place was spinning tyres. The chief was waiting for me in the black SUV by himself. Gosh, he was pissed off with me. Oh, how he yelled and shouted as we drove through the traffic back to the hotel. Apparently I had caused an international incident and stuff. It would take years and all sorts of promises and gifts to sort it out. Finn and I giggled like naughty children. Why the fuck did you do that? Why, goddamn you, Will, why? Shouted the little purple-headed chief. Because I'm a fucking werewolf, and that's why, and I am a cunt, I replied, folding my arms and laughing.